Good day, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I am Amna Aisha, and I will be your moderator for today's talk show.
A good day to everyone. My name is Sandra Xiaoxing and I am one of the speakers for today's talk show.
Good day, everyone. I'm Rui Yun, and I will be one of the speakers for today's talk show.
Today, we are diving into a fascinating topic: how language influence culture. Language is much more than a means of communication. It shapes our thought, our interaction, and even our sense of self. Whether we realize it or not, the language we speak plays a key role in defining cultural identity, transmitting values, and influencing how we perceive the world around us. My first question is: how do you think language shapes cultural identity?
Thank you, Aisha. In my opinion, language shapes cultural identity through cognitive framework. It is because language can create a cognitive framework which allows individuals to understand and relate to the world in ways that align with their cultural context, including beliefs, traditions, and values. According to Parajuli 2021, language acts as a cognitive tool to express and internalize the linguistic terms relevant to the cultural background. So, the change in linguistic regions may lead individuals to adapt to the new culture and reframe linguistic diversity with cultural identity. For example, according to Fan and Wessel 2023, approximately 1.5 billion people speak English globally, but less than 400 million speak it as a first language. It means that over 1 billion people speak it as a second language. This creates a variety of dialects and localized forms of English, such as Malaysian English, Singapore English, and Chinese English, reflecting the diversity of cultural identities within the English-speaking world. Hence, this example can relate to the cognitive framework because people integrate the English language to have their cultural identity, making the language understandable in their respective societies. Therefore, the language people speak influences their way of thinking and processing information, reflecting their shared history, values, and experiences of culture. This linguistic structure reinforces a sense of belonging and identity within a cultural group. From the teaching and learning perspective, I suggest teachers acknowledge students' linguistic and cultural backgrounds to foster a deeper connection between their personal experiences and learning materials. With this, teachers can utilize students' native languages as a foundation for learning and identity building, improving cultural inclusivity and cognitive growth in culturally diverse classrooms. That's all from me. What's your opinion, Yoendra?
I agree with your statement, Lee. Regarding this question, my belief is that language also plays a critical role in shaping our cultural identity by allowing individuals to express their cultural values. Through language, people convey their emotions, beliefs, and societal norms. This transmission of values solidifies a sense of belonging and cultural identity. For instance, the use of honorifics in Japanese language, which reflects deep respect for elders and authority, signifies the cultural values of respect. It demonstrates how language is intricately tied to cultural behaviors, shaping both thought and action. One notable theory supporting this relationship is Vygotsky's social cultural theory. It emphasizes that language and culture are inseparable, as language serves as the medium through which individuals learn about their world. In a teaching and learning context, this theory stresses the importance of integrating culture in language education. Students are not merely learning words, but are being introduced to the values and worldviews of the language speakers. Also, A study conducted by a member of the Department of Indonesian Language and Literature, which is Siti Rabia in 2018 on cultural immersion in language learning, found out that students who engage with the cultural aspect of a language shows a 60% improvement in communication skills compared to those who learn the language in isolation. Furthermore, the principles of communicative language teaching, which is CLT, suggest that language learning should be grounded in real life. This approach encourages the incorporation of cultural context in the classroom, allowing learners to practice language in culturally relevant contexts. In this way, teachers can foster a sense of cultural identity among students, helping them better understand and appreciate the cultural values embedded in their language. And since we are all teachers in making, I will also provide my suggestion from the teaching and learning perspective, which is that language teaching should actively promote intercultural competence by encouraging students to appreciate and respect diverse cultural values. Interactive teaching methods such as role-playing, cultural discussions, and project-based learning makes lessons more dynamic and relevant. Through all of these approaches, students not only learn the language, but they will also become culturally aware and adapt at engaging with different perspectives in this globalized world. And that is all from me.
Thank you, Yendra, for your insight. I agree with you. I would also like to add that language also plays a crucial role in defining our cultural identity, especially in how we interact socially. The way we speak to others often reflect the value, custom, and tradition of our culture. For example, consider the use of honorific. In many cultures, language serves to express social hierarchy and respect. Like in Korean, for instance, their using honorific is essential in conservation. When speaking to an elder or someone of higher status, you might add a formal ending like name or adjust verb form to show difference. Similarly, in Malay culture, addressing respected figure with title like Tuan or Puan convey politeness and respect, strengthening social bond within the cultural framework. Another important aspect is how we greet one another. The greetings we use can significantly shape social interaction. In Arabic-speaking culture, the phrase "Assalamu alaikum" meaning "peace be upon you" that carries a deep cultural significance that reflecting both religious and social identity. In contrast, in Western culture like the United States, a casual "he" or "hi" is often used in informal setting, reflecting how individualistic and less hierarchical social interaction. In summary, this example illustrates how language is not just a means of communication but also a reflection of our cultural identity. By understanding these nuances, we can better appreciate the diversity of social interaction across different cultures, and by recognizing the importance of language in shaping cultural identity, educators can foster deeper connection between student personal experience and their learning, ultimately promoting cultural inclusivity and understanding. Okay, now let's move to our next point, which is the important role that language play in shaping culture, that transmitting cultural values. As we all know that language is not just a means of communication, it is a vessel through which cultural values are passed from one generation to the next. The, word, the words, phrases, and expression we use the words, expression, and phrases that we use convey more than just a literal meanings. They carry the beliefs, norms, and practices that define our way of life. So how about you, Yandra? What is your point of view about this?
To answer that, my opinion is that language is a fundamental tool where cultural values are transmitted by shaping individuals' worldview and their perception to reality. Language allows for the expression of belief, customs, and moral values, reflecting the social framework of a particular culture. For instance, language with specific terms for family roles and hierarchies often represents the culture where family structures and respect for elders are deeply ingrained. Through the nuances of language, individuals not only communicate but also internalize these values as a part of their worldview. Now, let's take English as an example. The notable aspect of this language is its strong emphasis on clarity and precision. English grammar tends to favor directness, especially when it comes to expressing actions and responsibilities. This has shaped English speaking culture to value straightforwardness and individual accountability. For example, in English, phrases like I will or I can are common expressions of personal agency, reflecting a worldview that celebrates individualism and action oriented thinking. This linguistic structure aligns with the theory of linguistic determinism, which suggests that the language we speak influence our thought patterns. A study in language and cognition carried out in 2020 found that English speakers are more likely to describe events in active voice and assign clear responsibility, whereas speakers of other language often use passive voices, focusing on outcomes rather than individual actions. This focus on agency reinforces cultural values like self-reliance and entrepreneurship, which are prevalent in many speaking countries. In the context of teaching and learning, I suggest that teachers should encourage students to reflect on their own native language that shapes their own worldview. By drawing comparison between languages, students can develop a greater intercultural competence, a critical skill in our globalized world. My suggestion is to integrate multicultural contexts into language teaching, offering students a rich perspective that not only broadens their language skills but also deepens their understanding of different cultural values. This approach ensures that language learning becomes a bridge to understanding rather than a mere academic exercise. And that is all from me. What is your opinion on this, Lee?
I agree with your opinion, Yuendra. In my view, language transmits cultural values through building cultural awareness. It is because language not only acts as a means of communication, but also as a medium for passing cultural values from one generation to another. Language can encode moral principles, social norms, and ethics of society through proverbs, idioms, folklore, and stories, helping to build cultural awareness. Based on Parajuli 2021, language transmission from one generation to another generation provides the basis for cultural transmission and modification as mother tongue interaction in a family and society. This situation helps individuals learn all the fundamental cultural values and traditions, which can develop into an identity in the future. For instance, English words like home or family are deeply rooted in cultural ideas of belonging and support, reflecting values central to many English-speaking societies. English proverbs like "the early bird catches the worm" also emphasize the cultural value placed on hard work and punctuality. These words and proverbs are passed down through generations, reflecting the importance of diligence in Western cultures, particularly in English-speaking societies. Hence, this example can build cultural awareness because people retain their cultural values from one generation to another through language transmission. Thus, language serves as a medium for younger generations to learn about their cultural heritage, promoting cultural continuity and awareness by transmitting cultural values. From the teaching and learning perspective, teachers can apply Bandura's social learning theory, which helps students learn societal norms and values by observing and imitating role models such as elders, teachers, or peers. Teachers can use storytelling or cultural narratives to teach moral lessons, making learning meaningful and contextually relevant. That's all from me.
Thank you, Lynn. I agree with you. Proverbs are a universal part of a language and culture, offering wisdom passed down from one generation to the next. They condense important life lessons into short, memorable phrases that reflect a society values and beliefs. For instance, in English, the saying actions speak louder than words emphasize the importance of doing good rather than just talking about it. While in Malay, the proverb "Biar lambat asalkan selamat" teaches the importance of patience and caution, encouraging safety over speed. This proverb not only provide practical guidance but also offer insight into what a culture holds as important. Teachers play a vital role in imparting both knowledge and value to students. Beyond academic content, teachers help shape student character, guiding them to become responsible and thoughtful individuals. Proverbs can be a useful tool in this process because they are easy to understand, culturally rich, and carry deep lessons that resonate with students. By using proverbs in the classroom, teachers can bridge the gap between their traditional wisdom and modern learning, helping students to see the relevance of cultural value in their life. Teachers can highlight the practical meaning behind the saying and relate them to student experience, fostering moral and ethical development. One simple way teachers can implement proverb in the classroom is by introducing a proverb of the week activity. Each week, the teacher can share a new proverb. For example, practice make perfect. This will encourage perseverance and effort, teaching students that continuous practice lead to improvement in skill, whether it is academic, sport, or hobbies. Other than that is, don't judge a book by its cover. By using this proverb, the student this will help the student to make to not make assumptions about others based on appearance and promoting tolerance, acceptance, and open-mindedness. So, this shows that when teacher can discuss a real-life example or have students reflect on how this proverb apply in their own life. This activity not only build moral understanding but also enhance cultural awareness, allowing students to appreciate the wisdom found in different language and society. In conclusion, language is a powerful tool for transmitting cultural values and building cultural awareness. Whether it is through proverb, story, or media, language helps us preserve our cultural heritage while fostering a greater understanding of the diverse world we live in. By learning and appreciating the values embedded in different languages, we build bridge between culture, helping us to coexist more harmoniously in a globalized world. So next, moving to the third key point, let's talk about how language affect perception and thought. Do you believe that the language we speak influence how we see the world?
Yes, I believe that the language we speak influences how we see the world. From my perspective, language affects perception and thought through the symbolic nature of language. It is because language can influence individuals' views of the world and their thought processes. Based on Green 2023, this is related to linguistic relativity, also known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which suggests that the structure of language affects its speaker's worldview, cognition, and how they experience and understand the world. According to Tetigul et al. 2022, each language is a symbolic system that preserves the history of nation, its own cultures, knowledge, taste, character, consciousness, profession, traditions, and wisdom. It means that language is not only a system of symbols, but also an indicator of culture. Certain words in different languages carry symbolic meanings, which can shape how individuals categorize and interpret experiences. For example, English words like freedom have a strong symbolic meaning, especially in countries like the United States, where it reflects core national values of independence and individual rights. This word shapes how English speakers understand concepts related to autonomy and personal liberty. Besides, creative writings in English, such as poems, short stories, novellas, and novels, use abundant words that can symbolize more than one meaning other than their original meaning. This technique not only helps writers express their thoughts in unique ways, but also resonates with readers. Hence, these examples indicate that language can influence people's thoughts through its symbolic meaning. Therefore, the symbolic nature of language shapes how people interpret events and experiences, influencing their cognitive patterns and perspectives. It means different languages highlights different aspects of reality affecting cultural perceptions. From the teaching and learning perspective, I suggest teachers incorporate critical thinking exercises for students to analyze symbolic meanings of words in their languages to reflect on how language shapes worldview and cognition. With this, teachers can create opportunities for students to explore and discuss how language influences their thought processes, especially in cross-cultural classrooms, fostering cognitive flexibility. That's all from me. What about you, Yoendra?
Thank you. Personally, I agree that language has a profound influence on how we perceive the world around us. This is due to the fact that language plays a crucial role in directing our focus to particular details, making some aspects of our environment more noticeable while others fade into the background. For instance, languages that distinguish between various shades of color encourages speakers to observe these differences, while other languages may focus on forms or movement, directing attention elsewhere. From a cognitive perspective, the theory of linguistic relativity suggests that the language we speak affects how we categorize and focus on certain aspects of the world. This idea is further backed up by research as well. Among some of the research is a research that was conducted in 2021 in a study published in Cognitive Science that found out bilingual individuals who spoke languages with different grammatical structures shows increased cognitive flexibility and enhanced ability to switch between different modes of thinking, especially when interpreting space and time. This underscores the importance of language as more than just words and rules. It is about shaping our perception. In the context of teaching and learning, language is a critical tool that guides our attention. Therefore, educators must be mindful that their language shapes students' perception of the subject matter. By using varied vocabulary and expressions, teacher can broaden students' focus, encouraging them to notice different patterns and concepts. In doing so, they open door to creative and critical thinking. When teachers express enthusiasm and curiosity in their language, students' attention sharpens and they will become more engaged in the lessons. Hence, my suggestion for this is that teachers should incorporate multiple linguistic perspectives into lessons, thereby broadening the cultural and cognitive horizons of their students. By exposing students to language and expressions from different cultures, students can help them to see the world from new angles, improving both attention and thought process. This approach cultivates a classroom environment where language is not just a tool for communication, but also a key to unlocking richer cultural understanding and deeper cognitive focus. And that is all from me. Thank you.
I would also like to add about how humor in different cultures gives a different perception of understanding between us. Cultural nuances in language, especially in humor, idiom, and expression, are important for shaping identity and communication. Humor often relies on shared cultural reference, so jokes that work in one culture may not make sense in another. For example, British humor often uses irony, while American humor might be more about physical comedy. Puns and wordplay can also be tricky in non as they may not translate well for non-native speakers. Idiom features show how language reflects culture. These are phrases whose meaning aren't obvious for the individual word. For instance, "kick the bucket" means to die, but someone unfamiliar with the phrases might not understand its meaning. Translating idiom can lead to confusion because the literal meaning often doesn't make sense in another language. Expressions convey feelings and are tied to cultural context. For example, the Japanese term "wa" highlights the importance of harmony, which influences how disagreements are handled. This language difference can create misunderstanding and communication barrier. However, learning about the humor and idiom for another culture can be deepen understanding and foster empathy. When people understand each other's humor, it helps build connection and enrich interaction across different backgrounds. Finally, let's discuss how language reflects and adapts to environmental needs. In conclusion, language is a powerful tool that shapes our perception, thought processes, and interaction with the world. It reflects and adapts to the needs of its speaker, influencing how we interpret, experience, and communicate ideas. Through the study of linguistic relativity, we can see that the language not only guides attention but also fosters cultural understanding. And I think with that, we have reached the end of our talk show. A big thank you to our speaker, Yonra and Rui, for your insightful contribution today. Your perspective on how language reflect and adapt to cultural change have truly enriched our discussion. We appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you to to our audience for joining us for today's talk show, and we hope that you found this conversation engaging and thought provoking. Remember, language is not just a tool for communication. It is a living, evolving reflection of who we are and how we interact with the world. We look forward to seeing you at our next talk show. Until next time, have a great day.